time today. You actually said something I thought was really interesting during your comments in the press conference, talking about the need for year-round drug testing in boxing. So we come from the MMA world. I cover a little bit of boxing too, but you know that UFC just instituted the USADA. So what is your impression about that?
I think it's very important. I think it's a great move by the UFC to do that. You know, I think brain scans, brain testing, the way we're now pushing it, is important to monitor damage. And by monitoring it, you can keep control of it. But if you want to go a long way in avoiding a lot of the brain damage, controlling the doping is also a big thing, you know? And I think any professional sport that you notice when maybe might have not had strict drug testing, doping testing, and then suddenly they have it, you see two things that are very clear. One, a lot of guys start to fail. Two, the statistics start to drop. Records stop getting broken, all this stuff. I feel like boxing has a bigger problem than people realize with this doping stuff. I'm going to give you an example. Weight classes used to matter so much more. Marvin Hagler fought at 8 years as a middleweight world champion. Nobody broke his chops about, hey, you know what, you got to move up in weight. You made too many defenses. We want to see you jump up in weight. Nobody broke his chops. He was a world middleweight champion for 8 years. He fought Mustafa Hamsho twice in that time span because Mustafa Hamsho was the number one contender, lost, worked his way back up the rankings, and Hagler was still the champion. And nobody said, oh, you know what, you already beat this guy, you got to move up. No, they accepted it because it was part, at that time, jumping weight classes was a really serious thing, you know, and not to say he couldn't do it, but, you know, it's a more difficult thing and it was a lot more respected. Now, you're seeing everybody doing it. You're seeing everybody doing it, and it's getting to the point where everybody's even expecting fighters to do it. So, you know, these clean fighters have no shot. You know, they have no shot of making a living and making a career. And so, not only you eliminating the opportunity for people to make a living, you're also making this a much more dangerous sport because this is not cycling. This is not baseball. You know, this is a sport where you're damaging each other. You're hitting each other.
What's up, fight fans? Yo, the reason I have this picture up here, number one, he is my favorite fighter. Number two, we have some controversial things going on in the boxing world. And it happens to be revolving around Keith Thurman and Manny Pacquiao and the fact that they would not be using any VADA tests. Now, we all know steroids run rampant in our sport, and it is something that I can't stand. I mean, shit, it's almost at the point where if this is going to be the case, then fuck it, let them all be juiced to the gills. But this is about USADA and VADA and how I feel as though VADA is more successful and how it should be the gold standard, not USADA, as Floyd said. And we all know that VADA and the WBC didn't come together and start stripping opponents and taking you off of their list until recently. And we all know that Floyd is a retired fighter now. So the tampering with the fluid levels, saying they were injecting vitamins and stuff like that for his hydration and everything can be under mass scrutiny, considering that, you know, the testosterone levels were way lower than expected. Floyd always loved USADA. He never took the VADA. So I'm not going to act like Canelo and Pacquiao are the only ones like most people with their channels do. I'm going to leave no stone unturned. So we're just going to talk about just boxing in a whole. So this is the Two Hands Up show. Let's get into it.
It comes out now that Floyd Mayweather was given a retroactive exemption for a shot to rehydrate him with vitamins, etc., and fluids.
That was disputed.
That was later disputed by USADA, the governing body in terms of the drug testing.
Well, it's not the governing body.
In terms of drug testing, it was for this fight. They were contracted.
Well, they say, this is my man Doc Murray tells me this. USADA is supposed to do the testing and report to the governing body. Maybe the problems with the governing body.
The governing body is the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Right.
But USADA was, now listen, USADA is 10 times or more expensive than VADA. VADA is another testing agency that catches fighters cheating and cancels fights.
Right.
USADA never does. So either USADA is totally incompetent or they're corrupt. Like, what other conclusion? If you can draw another conclusion, tell me. It just so happens everyone they're testing is clean?
Well,
I think when did Earl Spence enroll in the WBC?
Well, he had nothing to do. You see, he's been taking USADA, right?
Break it down for everybody.
So what happens is he's personally doing USADA year round. He went to the Olympics. He was the number one in America since 2009. So that means he's done drug testing all the time for the past, 9 years. So if the WBC has something, he's not ranked in the WBC, so why would he be enrolled in something that they're doing? Now, for him to fight Sean Porter and Danny Garcia, he'll be doing it, but he's already doing it anyway.
But VADA,
They said one of the conclusions you're talking about is whoever governs boxing, because the governing body determines the level of testing, example, your analysis versus blood. So USADA could be the middleman. Like they're saying, go test everybody, but we really don't want the samples to come back beyond this threshold.
USADA also would say that their presence deters people from cheating.
I bet.
But that is an absurd claim because listen,
if they come with
the obvious inference to make is if one organization never catches anyone and they're 10 times as expensive than another organization that actually catches people, then the only reason to use the more expensive organization that doesn't catch anyone is because you want to purchase a good result.
You figured that out? That's pretty good. Genius.
I now want to so Floyd's saying that I follow and have always followed the rules of Nevada and USADA, the gold standard of drug testing. That's an absurd claim that Floyd is making the gold standard of drug testing. And I will read from Thomas Hauser's article. I'm going to quote a bit, so hang with me.
I'll be with you, bro.
I'm going to quote from just one part of his article on SB Nation.
Don't read the whole damn article either.
The use of carbon isotope ratio, CIR testing, as a means of identifying the presence of synthetic testosterone in an athlete's body was developed and used in conjunction with Olympic testing since 1998, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Since the Winter Games.
Yep.
As noted earlier, USADA often declines to administer the CIR testing to boxers on grounds that it's unnecessary and too expensive. The cost is roughly $400 per test. Although VADA CEO Dr. Margaret Goodman, remember, VADA's like 10 times cheaper to use than USADA. And VADA does CIR testing, so apparently it's not too expensive for them. Anyway, Margaret Goodman notes if you do a lot of them, you can negotiate the price. So it's $400 for a CIR test at most, but if you do a lot of CIR testing, that price comes down. Okay. If VADA, which charges far less than USADA for drug testing, can afford CIR testing on every urine sample it collects from a boxer, then USADA can afford it too. Quote, if you're serious about drug testing, says Victor Conti, you can do CIR testing. Conti, of course, was involved in the whole Barry Bonds. What was that, the lab called?
You're talking about Balco.
Balco, right.
Balco.
And he had to do some time, and now he's on the other side of the fence and lending his expertise to catching people, and who would know better than how to catch people
Right.
than Victor Conte? Okay. But CIR testing has not been fully utilized for Floyd Mayweather's fights. Instead, USADA has chosen to rely primarily on a testosterone to epitestosterone ratio test to determine if synthetic testosterone is in an athlete's system. So, okay, now let's talk for a second about testosterone to epitestosterone test. What is that? I'll quote from Hauser more. Testosterone and epitestosterone are naturally occurring hormones. Testosterone is performance enhancing. Epitestosterone is not. So you understand? You have them both in your body, testosterone and epitestosterone. The testosterone enhances your performance. The epitestosterone doesn't. Okay. A normal ratio, testosterone to epitestosterone, is slightly more than 1 to 1. That's like for you, me, walking around, normal ratio. Victor Conti says that one recent study of the general population, quote, placed the average, it's called TE ratio, testosterone, performance enhancing, to epitestosterone, not TE ratio, for white people at 1.2 to 1, for black people at 1.3 to 1. Turns out black people have a little more naturally occurring TE ratio, slightly higher than white people. Okay. Under WADA standards, a testosterone to epitestosterone ratio of up to 4 to 1 is acceptable. Remember, it's 1.2, 1.3 to 1 is normal. They're saying even if an athlete, of course, there's testosterone levels spike and everything, we'll go up to 4 to 1, which is almost over three times what a normal level should be. Because that allows for any reasonable variation in an athlete's natural testosterone level. Okay, for an elite athlete, it could be high. If the ratio is above 4 to 1, an athlete is presumed to be doping. They're like, look, I don't care who you are. You're 4 to 1. We're giving you plenty of runway here.
Something wrong. I get it.
Some athletes who use synthetic testosterone game the system by administering synthetic epitestosterone to drive their ratio down beneath the permitted ceiling. See what I'm saying? So if your testosterone, your performance-enhancing testosterone is high, and you want to get the ratio to be balanced, you have to inject synthetic epitestosterone. That's the stuff that doesn't enhance performance. You got to inject that stuff.
Listen to KSP in Los Angeles.
Or you can apply epitestosterone cream. The point is you got to take synthetic epitestosterone if you're juicing, to get your ratio to balance out. Okay, it's a masking device. But there's a catch, I'm quoting again. If an athlete tries to manipulate his or her TE ratio, it's difficult to balance the outcome. If an athlete uses too much epitestosterone, and the precise amount is very difficult to calibrate, Marcellus, the result can be an abnormally low TE ratio. Okay? So you're trying to mask your levels by, you're trying to mask the doping by taking synthetic epitestosterone. But it's hard to get the ratio just right.
Yep, you're going to go too far or with it?
An abnormally low TE ratio is not proof of doping, says Conti. The ratio can vary for the same athlete from test to test. But an abnormally low TE ratio is a red flag. And if you're serious about testing, the next thing you do after a low TE ratio result is you administer a CIR test on the same sample, right? Now, that's the test that will catch you dead to rights, but that USADA claims is too expensive to do, even though they charge 10 times more than VADA, which does the CIR test and therefore catches people. Okay? Am I being clear so far, Mario? Are you getting all this?
I got this. Yeah, this is interesting, too.
Earlier this year, in response to a request for documents, the Nevada State Athletic Commission produced 2 lab reports listing the TE ratio on tests that the Nevada State Athletic Commission, not USADA, had overseen on Floyd Mayweather. In one instance, blood and urine samples were taken from Mayweather on August 18, 2011, prior to his fight against Victor Cruz. In another instance, blood and urine samples were taken on April 3, 2013, prior to his fight against Robert Guerrero. In both instances, about a month before the fight.
All right.
What do you think Mayweather's TE ratio was? Remember, normal is 1.3 to 1 it would be for Mayweather, or up to 4 to 1. But if it's lower than 1 to 1, it's a red flag in terms of maybe there's a masking agent of synthetic epitestosterone being used to bring the ratio down. His first sample was 0.8 to 1. His second sample was 0.69 to 1. In other words, Floyd Mayweather, who at the age of 38 looks just about as good as anyone's ever looked, right?
Yeah.
Has an abnormally low testosterone to epitestosterone ratio.
Maybe he gave...
Yo, I don't give a fuck what boxing channel you watch. Everybody's got their guys that they like or they dislike. I like all of the guys. Floyd Mayweather is my favorite boxer. And you see, I took it there first. And the reason I took it there first is because nobody ever mentioned this, but you always hear about the tainted meat with Canelo. We always hear about Manny Pacquiao and there's several trials and tribulations. We always hear about everyone else. You know, Errol Spencer's undermentioned. I put him in there too because I'm thinking about the Charlo twins. I'm thinking about the Willie Monroe Jr. case from 2018 and he never was enrolled in VADA. I'm thinking about the fact that Keith Thurman vacated his WBC belt and he kept the other belt because it's not contingent upon VADA. And it's funny now that they're doing their fight. They're not testing with VADA. No, so, I mean, come on, man. The whole boxing organization, 90% of the fighters juice. And the true fighters, you know, some of them, they don't. I'm not going to say that they do or they don't, but I mean, the way the structure is set up and the way boxing's corrupt organization is set up, especially the WBC, you know these guys are under their needle. And, you know, I'm not going to be one to sugarcoat it. I just call it for what it is. And if you don't believe me, I mean, you could just pull an article. I can pull an article about Keith Thurman right now, but we all know he vacated WBC. So what the fuck else do I need to say to you? As we see here, this is back from 2018. The WBC revealed a huge list of boxers not drug testing with CBP/VADA, which is the clean boxing program. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that list. Okay, Fight Hands fans, since we stick to the facts, man, here's your list of clean champions. Only 64% are enrolled. 64% are enrolled right now. And I'm going to list off the guys that are enrolled. Vodka, Usyk, Kovalev, Vodzik, Beterbiev, Durrell, Canelo, Jacobs, Andrade, Hurd, Munguia, Harrison, Crawford, Porter, Thurman, Ramirez, Prograis, Burchell, Davis, Farmer, Ito, Warrington, Russell Jr., Valdez, Vargas, Roman, Rodriguez, Titi, Obali, Nietes, Tanaka, Mathlane, Shiro, Acosta, Alvarado, Juan Heng, and Freshmart. Now we see the guys that aren't entered. Anthony Joshua, but we know he enrolled in Vada for when he fought Andy Ruiz, so he's good. Bivol, Smith, Caleb Plant, Ramirez, Errol Spence Jr., Maurice Hooker, Baranchik, Lomachenko, Comey, Navarrete, Donaire, Ankasa, Estrada, Yafai, Edwards, Dalakian, Yoguchi, Soldar, and Krill. So a lot of these guys know they can enroll in Vada 8 weeks out. Some of these guys don't have fight. I know Regis Prograis is good. You know Errol Spence, he's fighting for the WBC, but he ain't going to enroll for 8 weeks out. He's under suspicion of me. Maurice Hooker, he's fighting for the WBC. I know he's good, or if not, we will find out. But you know whose names we don't see on that list? The fucking Charlo twins. What a coincidence. The guys who miss their UAs and everything else. Man, I mean, all the boxing juices. So get that shit out your head and act like it's a couple people. Here's the list all the way from 2019 to 2016. The 2019, I showed you that only 64% of the champions are enrolled. And I showed you the guys that aren't enrolled. And here are the list of the other guys that just aren't Vada CBP enrolled, period. And if you see the asterisk next to their name, those are the guys who happen to enroll in Vada. So, as you can see, there are a lot of guys that are doing the dirty work. We already know Jarrell Miller got caught. I think, man, it's a lot of guys that have that history. And to speak on the heavyweight division itself, do you guys know that 50% of the heavyweight division itself are juicers? There are only half of the names that haven't popped up dirty. And I'm about to show you that too. There you have it. The heavyweight division. We all know Big Baby, he done got caught for 3, so we already know why he wasn't on the WBC list. But we already know Luis Ortiz, we already know Tyson Fury, we already know freaking Dillian White, we know freaking Alexander Povetkin. Man, the list goes on and on. So 5 out of your top 10 juice.
It's time to play the game that was invented by our very own.
No, that was, You're So Me. Oh, yeah, that's
you, man. You're So Me. That's what we're playing.
Look at that.
First up,
Invented it.
SB Nation reported that Floyd Mayweather took a banned IV on the eve of his fight with Manny Pacquiao in May. The United States Anti-Doping Agency issued a statement earlier today disputing that report, stating that Mayweather applied for and was granted permission to take an IV infusion of saline and vitamins. Such injections and infusions are normally banned because they can be used to dilute or mask the presence of another substance. Max, what is your meme for this story?
Please tell me more. Nevada State Athletic Commission and USADA, the testing organization, which refuses to use the most kind of sophisticated tests that can test for these synthetic epitestosterone, etc., masking agents, on the grounds that they're too expensive, even though USADA, who never catches anyone, they once caught one fighter, and that was after public pressure was brought to bear, because they caught him multiple times, they never really wanted to do anything about it, and enough public pressure was brought to bear that they actually did something about it. This organization, USADA, costs like 10 times as much as this organization, VADA, which actually tests and catches fighters. So the real big question from all this is, why insist on USADA, the more expensive test? And the answer is because you're purchasing a result. The inference here is you're purchasing the result you want by spending more money on the organization that does less sophisticated testing.
Thank you for watching Outside the Line.
In the words of the boy, Oscar Rivas. Boom. There you have it. A lot of your favorite fighters are under suspicion. So let's not sit up there and draw criticism for just a couple guys. Floyd Mayweather was not perfect. He was suspect as well. And I'm showing you a filter of a lot of gentlemen who came, saw, and they used. So we're not going to sit up there and act like it's just a couple guys. Man, this is the Two Hands Up show, man. I know this is a 20-minute video. It was a lot to cover. I even tried to shorten it because there was a lot more that I wanted to go into detail about, but I knew it would have been a book. So there you have it. I've showed you multiple fighters. I've even put my favorite fighter on the line and other fighters that I like as well. Errol Spence is under high suspicion of me. Keith Thurman, even more. But a lot of these guys juice. Let's stop acting like it's just Canelo and Pacquiao. Floyd under suspicion too, just like the rest of the world. You know what it is. Two hands. Respect though.